Hey guys, this is episode 3, the Ramblin' Man podcast. Coming at you live, solo this time. It's just me by myself. So I'll try not to ramble too much. I'll try to keep it focused on a specific topic or multiple topics. But I need y'all's help. I need you guys to subscribe to the YouTube if you're listening. Or watching on YouTube. Also, if you're listening on any platform like iTunes or Spotify, go ahead and follow the podcast and give us a rating. I need you guys to help me by giving me topics or content to talk about, any kind of topics or things you may be interested in, or you want to know about me, or whatever it may be. I just want to be engaging with the community. So I need y'all's help to know what to talk about. So with that being said, I wanted to start this podcast talking about a embarrassing story. Just to let you guys know that I don't take myself too seriously. So one story that sticks out to me, because I was made fun of for it, was I must have been probably between the ages of 7 to 10, and I went with my dad to his lawyer's office. I can't remember who was with us. It was either my uncle or a family friend. We go to his attorney's office. I can't remember what for or anything like that, but I just remember going, and he lived he worked out of this big house. So we're at this place, he offers us drinks and stuff, and the main things I remember is I had to really take a poop. Okay. With that being said, I asked where the restroom was. He told me where the restroom was. I rushed to the restroom. I'm having a difficult time in there for whatever reason, and I'm young. I don't know any better. So next thing I know, I am finishing my business, and I leave the restroom, and after about 5 minutes, I was looking around. I walk into the office, and my dad and I think it was my uncle, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was my uncle, they're laughing at me. And I'm like, what the heck are they laughing at me for? And I'm getting embarrassed, and I don't know what they're laughing at me about. And I look behind me, and I realize I literally had toilet paper hanging out of my pants. Now, not only was I having an issue with needing to go to the restroom, but now I'm getting made fun of, and I was walking around this lawyer's office with toilet paper hanging out of my pants. So it was a very embarrassing and awkward thing. But to this day, I think those are some of the things that make me who I am. I don't really get embarrassed very easily, because there's been plenty of times, especially in my family, that we get put on the spot or are in embarrassing situations where now, I don't really take myself too seriously, or get embarrassed very easily, which is a bad thing for people around me, because then I don't mind making a fool of myself or doing something that may seem embarrassing to them, because it doesn't bother me. And I have tons of stories like that growing up, that kind of just always had this idea, if you can't laugh at yourself, then you're probably living life too seriously. Not to say that you shouldn't take life seriously, but you should always take it with a grain of salt. So that's just a little bit about me as a funny story. You may not think it's funny, but I personally think about it and I think it's funny, and I just remember how embarrassing it was. Let me know an embarrassing story about you, and maybe you can relate to it, but there's always stuff we look back at and think, that was embarrassing or funny or whatever. But it kind of just helps shape who we are. The next thing I wanted to touch on a little bit was movies that leave a mark on your life. And that could be any movie. It could be any kind of genre of movie. I love movies in general. It doesn't matter what genre. The other day, the reason why I thought about this was because the other day I rewatched Goodfellas. And I remember Goodfellas a lot because when I first moved to kind of the same area that I live in now, when I was younger, my parents bought a nicer house. And I remember when we first moved in, that was a movie we watched a lot. It was like we only had a TV set up and a DVD player, and that was the main movie we watched every night. And I just always remember it, like, brings back memories of, moving to somewhere new and starting a new school and stuff like that. And I just always love that movie. It just kind of gives me some nostalgia. But because I rewatched that movie, it made me think, there's a lot of movies that they may not even be the best movies, but they always, leave a mark on your life in some kind of way, or always bring back memories, positive, negative. And the funniest thing is there's a couple movies that I've watched a million times. One of which I watched Rush Hour 2 every day for a year. Why? I have no idea. But I love all the Rush Hours, and Rush Hour 2 I owned, and I would put it on every single night and fall asleep watching it. So I've seen it a million times. I can quote it. It's still one of my favorite movies. I'll watch it front to back to this day. Like, to this day. And there's a couple others that I had watched over and over again. There's this one I watched, if I'm not mistaken, it's called The Corruptor. It was another cop movie, but there was a couple that I just would watch, and some of those movies may not even, like Bad Boys 2, it was may not be the best movies in the whole world. Oh, I remember one, Live Free Die Hard. It was one of the newer Die Hard movies. It's not the best in the whole world, but for some reason I loved it, and I always would watch it. And when I think it, what's his name? Jake Long, I think is his name. When he's listening to Evanescence, I always remember that scene, and I love that movie for whatever reason, and I watched it a lot. And I don't know, it's just movies sometimes leave or make a mark on your life with bringing back memories and stuff. And I'm just curious what you guys might have movies that made an impact in your life, or that you watched a lot, or is your favorite, or you could watch a million times, because everybody's different. Everybody has different genres and different things that they may like. But I'm just curious on what for you guys would be movies that leave a mark on your life, or that you see as timeless. And this is something that's just completely subjective. It's just your opinion. I'm never going to dog somebody for their movie preference. But I'm just curious, what are some movies that you guys can watch a million times, or that's your favorite movie, or left a big mark on your life? I can say that I've never seen Titanic, and I plan on not watching it. It's just a movie I've never seen, and I don't believe the hype around it. I could be wrong. So yeah, let me know. So this is something that's a little more serious that I wanted to touch on a little bit, just because I saw something on YouTube about this. And I always see people kind of having this mentality, especially in the fitness world or health, that, people are attracted to this idea that, abs in 2 weeks, 30 days to get shredded, or P90X, or whatever it may be. A lot of these people are selling you this idea that you can meet your goals, or get fit, or get a six-pack, or, this image you have in your mind, you can attain it very easily. When reality is, that's not really true. You can have that, but a lot of times it takes a lot more work than what they're telling you. And a lot of times, the truth is always harder than, the dishonesty that they're showing. So the most important thing is that, I wish that social media was a little more honest and help people, understand that, look, you want to lose weight, you want to be XYZ, goals, it's one to get your blood pressure better, or lower your cholesterol, or lose body fat, or be more athletic, whatever it may be. You can attain that goal. It just takes time. And, it could take a year. It could take 6 months. It could take longer than that. But the key here is that you stay consistently working at it. And you can have it, and you can attain the goal. It's just about working towards it consistently. And a lot of times they don't really teach you that. You just follow this program. But, what's practical is what's going to work. So if it's something that you can make into a lifestyle change and something that you can do on a daily basis and work on it continually, then, that's what's going to play into reaching that goal. So I just wish that there was more honesty in the fitness world, because a lot of people like the idea of having stuff very easily. We live in this world now where everything is very easy. People like to blame millennials and all these other generations that they just want stuff for free. And I mean, yeah, it's because we create a culture where we lie to people. And the truth is, like, you have to work hard for what you want, and it may take time, but you got to be patient. And as long as you're seeing some results as you're working towards it, then you're going where you need to go. Even if it's just 1% every day, that's still improvements. So it just bothers me, like, to see, like, some dishonesty. And, the biggest example I can give is, if I have a big butt and I decide that I want to sell a butt program, but I've always had a big butt. Like, I never actually did anything super crazy to get this big butt. And I sell a program and say, look, in 6 weeks I'll have your butt bigger. I would be lying to people. Now, would the movements and the workout regimen that I give them not work? No, it can still work. But to say that this is the key to what got me the butt I have is a lie. And I see that a lot, and it's just like, I see that a lot with butt workouts and ab workouts. And not that the workouts don't work, but it's just kind of a dishonest way of portraying things to get people to buy. And I think that if people were just honest and be like, hey, look, this program can work. You might have to do it a couple times, and you might have to really work at it, but it'll work. It's like people wouldn't be burnt out or feel like they were cheated. And I think that's what happens a lot, is people will expect something, and then they don't see what they're expecting, and then they have this jaded mentality or wrong mentality, like, well, they just are trying to cheat me, or they're liars, or, that just doesn't work for me. It's like, man, you don't know. You didn't give it enough time for it to really show its results. Like, I would say, give something like 3 months. Like, 3 months is a good litmus test to see, like, where am I at? What results have I seen? I did measurements. I saw my weight. Even though weight gain's not a good, or weight change is not a good indicator, that's going to be a good true test if something is really good or working as it should. So it's just a lot of social media fakeness. It happens a lot. People portray something that they're not, and it's just, you have to be careful, and you have to understand that that sometimes you have to take things with a grain of salt, and just really, get advice from people that are really going to help you, put you in the right direction, that have expertise in it. Just because someone has a lot of followers on Instagram doesn't mean that they're really qualified. They don't have the knowledge or the understanding to really help people. And that's a lot of what we get, is social media gives people this power to seem like they're an expert when they're not. And there's a lot of people that you probably know that do have some kind of expertise, or, everybody knows somebody that works out a lot. Ask them. Ask someone that might have a little bit of more knowledge than you. It's always intimidating to go into the gym or any kind of like fitness journey where you want to get somewhere and you don't know what to do or how to start or where to go. The easiest thing you can do is just ask for help. Someone will be willing to help, and you probably will get better advice than someone that's just an Instagram famous person or a YouTuber. But in the same sense, some of those content creators do have some good content, but you can't use that as your only source. You have to be constantly trying to learn, like, how can I get better? How can I improve? What do I need to do to dial in my nutrition and really lose some body fat, or whatever it may be? So don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the one thing that is good about Facebook and Instagram is there's a lot of people that are willing to help, and even though they may not be with 100,000 followers or anything like that, they still have experience and have some insight that might be able to help you get to where you're going. And the last thing, kind of tying into that, that I wanted to touch on a little bit is, this is a little more serious topic than the previous ones. It's just like, there's a real lack of ownership, of responsibility, and I just see that a lot. Like, people are so worried about other people's opinions, blaming other people, especially like with all this that's been going on with COVID-19 and quarantine, and people have too much time on their hands. People are thinking a lot, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Self-discovery, working on themselves, finding passions. But in the same sense, there's a lot of people that are pushing out a lot of negativity, but also in a really bad way, where they just, have negative things to say, will blame people for other things. And, ultimately, being responsible and taking ownership is going to be really about focusing on what you can control, what you can do, not being like, the number one thing I see is, you always have the adversaries. You have the Republicans and Democrats fighting against each other. It's Trump's fault because he didn't act fast enough. No, it's the Democrats' fault because they're not pushing out a stimulus bill. Like, who cares? They're all to blame because they're not taking ownership of what they need to be doing, including ourselves. And I think that it's really important for us as people, especially if we want to move forward, take ownership, be responsible for your household, be responsible for you, what you can do. You can better your health, you can better your life, get rid of all of the negative things in your life. Things that you really can't impact is stuff like local government, and instead of worrying about, oh my God, like, they're not helping us enough, they weren't fast enough. Like, help people that are in need. Go out and help somebody. Go out and, serve some people. Go out and do some good. We're fortunate enough to still be alive. We're fortunate enough to still have a roof over our head. You're listening. You're in a car. You have headphones. Like, you're listening to on a nice phone. Like, we're fortunate, and depends on the perspective that you take. And we need to take responsibility for our own lives and our own actions. We all come at fault at some point. It's just about, do we realize that we have to take ownership of it, or are we going to be responsible for our actions? And that ultimately is what helps us improve our lives and become better people. Is, ultimately, am I going to own up to it? Am I going to, when it's my turn to bat, am I going to, show up? Am I going to do what I need to? So I think a lot of people need to look at themselves and, take ownership of what they're responsible of. I think government's failed us. I think politicians have failed us. I think we failed ourselves. I think we all fail. And I think that's the human aspect that we have to understand, that we're all going to fail. It's just that what we do after that really dictates what's going to happen afterwards. Because if we fail and we just decide, it's so-and-so's fault, or it's never going to change, then yeah, it's never going to change. It's going to keep happening. And that's why it's important that when failures happen, or shortcomings, or, things don't go our way, especially like this, like, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to own up to and be like, man, I could have been better prepared. I could have responded better. I could have gone out instead of sitting at home depressed in bed watching Netflix all day. I could have went out and helped my neighbor, or went out to the community and helped the first responders and dropped off food, or even the smallest things make a big difference. You know, so it just depends on how you want to look at it, you know, and the actions we take afterwards dictate what's going to happen. I think that all of us need to take a little more responsibility and ownership for what's going on, even though some of the things are beyond our control. You know, you lost your job, or, you know, you never know, you got sick. You know, there's some things you can't control, but there's, at the end of the day, there's always something, you know, that we can improve and be better in and take responsibility for ourselves, you know. It's not always the case for everybody, but, you know, I think there's some responsibility to bear for everybody, you know. Someone once told me, you know, we shoulder the load, and that's the important thing. You know, we should be standing shoulder to shoulder, helping each other out as a community. And I think a lot of times that's the problem, is we always feel like that you have to have an enemy, or that someone else is the one who's attacking you, and, you know, it has to be that way. But that's not true. That's a lie that we're told. It doesn't always have to be us versus them. You know, there has to be a common ground. There has to be somewhere where we can, you know, get shoulder to shoulder. And, you know, that's what the whole COVID thing you would hope we would come out with, is like, you know, we're battling this together and we're in this together. We need to help each other. And I think that something to consider is like taking ownership of our lives and our choices and being responsible people. And I think that if we really do that and dig deep into ourselves and analyze ourselves and try to improve ourselves, you know, it may take time. You know, you may not work out all the problems or the responsibility issues, or owning up to all the things in your life that you failed at or whatever immediately. But as long as you work towards it, just like the previous topic where you're working at it 1%, eventually it pays off, you know. And you will overcome all your failures, or, you know, realize, you know, I thought I would always be this way. But as you always work on it and continue to work on it, you'll improve, and, you know, you take responsibility of yourself. So I leave you guys with that. When it's by myself, unless I really just start rambling on, which, you know, it might happen. That's just the way I am. You know, sometimes I get a little wild, I get a little crazy, and just start going off and to the galaxy. But I'll try to do the solo ones a little more on point, keep them a little bit shorter, keep them, you know, on topics that were suggested, or videos I can watch and, you know, commentate over it. But we'll keep it to the point. We'll really focus on, you know, funny things or whatever, current events or whatever it may be, whatever you guys suggest. We'll just try to keep it a little simpler on the solo ones. But I really encourage you guys to leave a comment, you know, give me a rating on the podcast, you know, show some love. But really, I want you guys to start giving me some stuff to talk about. You know, it could be anything. You know, give me stuff to look into. I mean, I'm always reading about new stuff, crazy stuff, you know, funny stuff. It doesn't matter. The main thing is I just want to engage with you guys. I want you guys to, as listeners, you know, be a community. I want this to be an interactive thing, not just me talking about whatever, because I could always do that. But I also want to include you guys and, you know, be interactive and be in this together. So, you know, shoot me some videos. You can send them to me on YouTube, on my email, which I will put in the description. You can always send it to that email. Send me videos, you know, articles, whatever it may be. You know, I want to talk about crazy stuff. You know, I like learning. I like expanding my mind. So I like funny stuff. I like memes. Send them to me. Let's do it. And let's just continue to work on ourselves, and let's get through this COVID-19 thing. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to get some more guests on the show coming soon. And until next time, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking around. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow us on Spotify and give us a rating. Or once we're on iTunes, you can follow us there as well and give us a rating. But thank you so much for listening. Till next time, peace.